Welcome back to the quarterfinals match between Pipsqueak and Hammer Tribal. Pipsqueak is on Rini Infuse, or Rini Fuse, the boogeyman deck of the format, and favorite to win the GP. And meanwhile, Hammer Tribal is on Abzan Rini, or Endless Helpless Rinis, or whatever else you want to call the Rini plus EHS plus discard Black Cantrips deck. So, Pipsqueak is running a Blazing Fast combo deck, while Hammer Tribal is running a mid-range deck with tons of discard. So it'll be an interesting matchup. It'll be interesting to see who ends up winning this, because most players do have a chance. It leads off with Gift of the Phoenix, discarding Artie's Invocation, and they have the resources to get turn 2 Rini. Okay, so and meanwhile, well, it doesn't matter because Hammer Tribal is going to no, they can't actually turn 1 Valdez them because Gloom Cover Step is tapped. Because if Hammer had untapped Blacksworth, they could turn 1, use Valdez's Adventure to snag the Rini from Pipsqueak's hand. But since they don't have that option, can Pipsqueak get down a turn 2 Rini? So they already have 2 spells in Yard. They play Mana Confluence, they play Artie's Invocation, so that's 3 spells in Yard, and then they play Gifted Phoenix. So that discards something. So that gets you to 5 spells in Yard, and that would get you a turn 2 Rini. But Pip doesn't go for a turn 2 Rini for some reason. I wonder why. Are they trying to? Is there anything that Pip is trying to play around? Because I don't think Hammer Tribal's deck has a way to remove a turn 2 Rini. So I think that was just a huge misplay, because Pip could have played a turn 2 Rini and Hammer Tribal would have absolutely no answer to that thing. Well, I guess Hammer Tribal can use one of the discard spells to snag Pip's only spell in hand after they drop the turn 2 Rini, but that still leaves Pip with his Rinis on board, and if Pip top decks any spell, then Rini starts going off hard. So Hammer Tribal going for a turn 2 Prying Inquiry, and sees that Pip in fact has 2 Rinis in hand, and has 5 spells in Yard, so there's no way that they can prevent Pip from dropping a Rini next turn. So Hammer Tribal is going to choose Rini anyways in order to prevent... Well, actually, maybe Hammer Tribal would have been better served snagging the only other 1-cost spell in Pip's hand, because then that would have prevented Pip from dropping Rini with a spell. But Pip top decks Corrupt Memory, so that play wouldn't have worked anyways. So now Pip has a turn 3 Rini, followed by a cantrip. Or actually, no, followed by 2 cantrips, because they already use Invocation into Rini, so they have extra mana. Now Pip is going to lay down Rini and then follow up with a Corrupt Memory. And Hammer Tribal just concedes there, because there's no way they can answer Rini plus 2 Angels. And this is a perfect display of just the sheer power of Rini Fuse. And looking at the sideboard, Hammer Tribal luckily has a very complete sideboard plan against the Rini deck. They're running Sigil of Radiance and Seal of Tomb and Memento Mori. So they're probably going to bring all that in. And with even more Grave Hate, hopefully Hammer Tribal can find a way to stop the Rini deck from going off too soon. And meanwhile, on Rini's side, or Rini Fuse's side, Pip probably wants to board him more Corrupt Memories, more Rinis, because they're not as hard by Grave Hate. And then maybe Nature's Claims and Stolen Secrets, just to answer enchantments. Okay, so both players have drawn their opening hands for game 2, and Hammer Tribal keeps a hand with 2 1-mana discard spells and a Memento Mori. So Hammer Tribal has come extremely prepared for whatever Pip is trying to do. Meanwhile, Pip has a hand with tons of cantrips and a Rini. The Hammer Tribal is just gonna spell Stolen Secrets, naming Sorcery. Okay, so they can snag any one of Pip's many cantrips. I don't think it really matters which one they hit. They probably want to take Consult, because that one is the strongest cantrip, or the least redundant cantrip in Pip's hand. I don't think it particularly matters which one they take. Well, they take Wheat from Chaff. I guess they don't want stuff in the graveyard. So next turn, Hammer Tribal is probably following up with another Stolen Secrets on creature to snag the Rini. So Pip draws another land, and so what cantrip are they going to play on turn 1? Either play Gifted Phoenix or Glimpse Beyond. They're just going to Glimpse Beyond. Probably discarding Restot's command plus another card. Maybe either Monkey Shines or Gift. Yeah, they're gonna discard Gift. And now Hammer Tribal draws another land. So, I guess the question here is Hammer Tribal going to Stolen Secrets to snag the Rini, or are they going to keep up Memento Mori in case Pip does anything funny? And Pip has 4 spells in Yard. Hammer Tribal is just gonna place the second Stolen Secrets, naming Sorcery instead of Creature. Huh. Well, I guess, yeah, Pip can't really drop a turn 2 Rini this game, unless they top deck Artie's Invocation. But I guess Hammer Tribal is banking on Memento Mori's. Actually, no, they have Noxious Upwelling, right? So they're just banking on using the Noxious Upwelling to stop whatever Rini does. And Pip doesn't know that Hammer Tribal is holding Noxious Upwelling, so they probably won't actually try to play around it. Okay, so they do draw Corrupt Memory and seize Hammer Tribal's hand. So are they going to take Memento Mori or are they going to take Noxious Upwelling? I think Pip probably wants to take Memento Mori because if their graveyard gets exiled, then both Infuse and future Rinis become worse. But if one Rini gets killed, their graveyard is still stocked for any other Rinis they draw. And yeah, they're gonna take Memento Mori. They're just gonna try to play around Noxious Upwelling by not relying as hard on the Rini plan. Hammer Tribal updecks the Nithra Muck Bruiser. So Hammer Tribal is out of hand attack for now, but they do have an answer to Rini. And Pip, knowing that, will probably keep digging for ways to deal with Noxious Upwelling before they drop their Rini. Okay, and Hammer Tribal is just gonna find happiness and misery and try to cantrip into either a discard spell or more Memento Moris. So looking at Hammer Tribal right now, they're one spell away from also having a 2-mana Rini. I guess they're also 1 white mana away from it. So Seek draws another land, and they can keep cantripping here. But they're just going to run out the Rini, I guess, to force Hammer Tribal to play Noxious Upwelling next turn. Or, does Pip realize that Noxious Upwelling kills Rini? So I guess tapping out the opponent. Did Pip forget to draw for Monkey Shines? I guess Pip did forget to draw for Monkey Shines. That's quite the error. But now for Hammer Tribal, so they're forced to Noxious Upwelling and Reverberate this turn, and that's what they do. And that leitmotifs to find happiness in misery. And Hammer Tribal draws into another Noxious Upwelling. Have they played a land this turn? I don't remember. Okay, I guess they did play a land this turn. So Rini forcing the opponent to spend 3 mana and sacrifice a land. Not a bad outcome. Now looking at Pip's graveyard, they can just try to dig for Infuse, because Infuse will end the game here. But they don't draw Infuse, so they're going to try to dig again. And still no Infuse. And Pip decides to discard a land. Okay, so Hammer Tribal draws a Sigil of Radiance, so they can just slam that down, and that puts an end to any Infuse plans that Pip might have. And Noxious Upwelling will put a stop to any Rini plans. But how many copies of Noxious Upwelling does Hammer Tribal even run in their deck? They run 2 copies, so assuming that Pip boarded in all their Rinis, then if Pip draws 2 more Rinis, then they can slam one of them down, force Hammer Tribal to Noxious Upwelling it, and then Hammer Tribal taps their mana incorrectly, so they can't beneath their Muck Bruiser this turn. And that mistake is actually quite punishing, because the Nithra Muck Bruiser does present a pretty big clock to Pip. Now Pip gets 1 more turn to mess around and find something. Pip can also take the Noxious Upwelling with the Stolen Secrets, and that would protect the Rini. And meanwhile, the High Prairies is slowly fading away. Okay, and Pip top decks Infuse, and they can't cast due to Sigil of Radiance. So I think Pip is just gonna glimpse beyond and dump the Infuse for something that actually does stuff. Or Pip going to Stolen Secrets first? Or actually, yeah, or they can crack the clue. Oh no, they're gonna glimpse beyond first. And I'm assuming they're just discarding Infuse Apparatus now. They're just hard digging for Rini. And the thing is, with Sigil of Radiance down, Hammer Tribal's Memento Mori does nothing against Pip's graveyard. But Pip is just gonna play out their discard spells and keep digging. So Hammer Tribal draws Endless Helpless Souls. They probably will cast that just to see what they get off it. Or They're gonna run out one Denithra Muck Bruiser, but with 14 cards in graveyard, those Denithra Muck Bruisers are quite huge. They're 9/11s, huh? So Pip is probably they're cracking the clue now. Finding Rastad's command. So Rick can afford to get whacked by Denithra Muck Bruiser once, and well, that's also an example of how bad Harmon Tribal's misplay or tapping the mana incorrectly last turn was, because if they had the Nitro Muck Bruiser down last turn, then Pip would have been threatened with lethal already. So Pip plays Corrupt Memory, glitched, picking Noxious Upwelling. I guess Pip is just all in on the draw Rini plan. Harmon Tribal gets another land, and now they can Denithra Muck Bruiser plus Endless Helpless Souls. Let's see what Amitrabo hits off the EHS. And they get Seal the Tomb. Oh no, Seal Tomb can hit Rini, because again, Seal Tomb doesn't require you to exile the card from the graveyard in order to exile it from all the other zones. And Seal Tomb on Rini will prevent Pip from winning, and yeah, Pip just concedes there. So now we'll need to go to game 3 to decide which of the Rini decks will move on in the GP. Okay, so game 3, Pip gets a hand with 3 lands and some cantrips, and yeah, Pip is just gonna keep that. Meanwhile, Harmon Tribal gets a hand with a bunch of Seal the Tombs, a Muck Bruiser, and EHS. So both players are playing some pretty powerful hands right now. Pip playing the Consult Ancient Knowledge, drawing Harmon Tribal into Stolen Secrets. Now Harmon Tribal can go Stolen Secrets and then Seal the Tomb on whatever it's discarded. I think Harmon Tribal is just going to Stolen Secrets, naming Sorcery on turn 1, and trying to... Oh, Harmon Tribal names Creature. That's probably trying to snag the Rini turn 1 and then Seal the Tomb the Rini next turn. But Harmon Tribal completely whiffs on the Stolen Secrets. The Harmon Tribal probably should have named Sorcery with the Stolen Secret, or at least with the first Stolen Secrets, just to be safe. Now Pipsqueak gets to do some stuff. But again, Pipsqueak doesn't actually know that Harmon Tribal has Seal the Tomb in yard. So if Pipsqueak discards Rastad's command, then it's getting sealed. But Pipsqueak digs into a Correct Memory, and then so that they know what's in Harmon's hand, and they see the 2 Seal the Tombs, so they'll probably play a lot more carefully now. In fact, Pip even refused to bin the 2 spells off Monkey Shines, and instead elected to keep the Corrupt Memory. So Pip probably thinks extremely highly of Corrupt Memory in this matchup, which is probably a good thing or a good way to think of it. So Pip snags the Endless Helpless Souls, which is a strange thing to take right now because turn 3 is still 2 turns away. And so now Harmon Tribal plays Gloom Clever Step and passes the turn holding up 2 Seal the Tombs. But since Pip has seen Harmon's hand already, they probably know to play around it. So they're probably not going to discard Rastad's command. And Pipsqueak leads off with Glimpse Beyond. And that's not a very good hand, because if they discard Rastad's command, they can get sealed. And Pip elects to discard Rastad's command. So I guess they're probably just saying that they're not going to win off Rastad's command this game. And they discard Infuse. So they're going 100% into the Rini plan right now, because Harmon Tribal can just seal the 2 cards. Huh. I wonder why they're doing that. Is Pipsqueak just hard digging for Rini right now? Oh, anyways, Harmon Tribal is probably more than happy to deal both combo pieces at the end of their turn. Or maybe just the command, because Infuse is a lot less scary. Your opponent doesn't have a command. But is Harmon Tribal going to seal the Infuse too? Seems like no. Harmon Tribal just decides that Infuse is fine, because command has already been exiled. So Harmon Tribal draws a little land, and you can either play out the Nithra Muck Bruiser and start the beats, or they can play Find Happiness and Misery and try to see what they can draw into. And they're gonna play down the Nithra Muck Bruiser to begin the beats and put Pipsqueak on a clock. So Pipsqueak is probably hoping to draw Rini, but that's not Rini. And they're gonna do whatever they can to dig for Rini. And that's still not Rini. And wait, did Pip forget to discard for Weed from Chaff? Wait. Okay, so now that the judge call is resolved, so Hammer Tribal gets dire prediction, so the Nissan Muck Bruiser is starting to get pumped now. And notably Tether is a May, so you can just dump it in the yard, and that's what Hammer Tribal is going to do. So Hammer Tribal decides to mail Sigil of Radiance. I guess it's because they realize that Pip is not on the Infuse plan anymore. So now the Nissan Muck Bruiser is swinging in pretty hard. And since Pip is using Mana Confluence, the life loss will add up pretty quickly. If Pip doesn't draw Ring this turn, the Nissan Muck Bruiser might just be the end of them, especially if they try to give to Phoenix now. But they do end up drawing to Rini, so I guess they can breathe a huge sigh of relief. Now the only thing Pip has to worry about is that Hammer Tribal is going to top deck a Noxious Upwelling. Because if they do top deck Noxious Upwelling, they can probably dump some more cards into the graveyard, and then Noxious Upwelling, which kills the Rinis but leaves Muck Bruiser alive. So Pip draws into more Rinis. They're probably going to keep the Rinis around just in case Hammer Tribal has a removal spell. So in that case, they probably want to dump High Prairies and Gift because they're on really low life, and then play Oracle's Vision. But it's at the same time, Pip is really reluctant to play Oracle's Vision because what if they dump it? Okay. Pip just not caring at all about how much life they have left, or if their opponent has Seal the Tomb or Noxious Upwelling, because Hammer Tribal is just going to Seal the Tomb, the Rini, and then if they draw into Noxious Upwelling, then that kills the Rini and Pip is out of win conditions. So yeah, I feel like that was extremely strange play from. Well, no, that does make sense because assuming that Hammer Tribal has Noxious Upwelling, then they can just kill the Rini and then heal it. But then, which would also hit the Rini in hand, so it was better to just get rid of the Rini in case that you don't lose hand, you don't end up losing cards if your opponent Noxious Upwellings and then seals. But at the same time, making this play just assumes that your opponent doesn't have Noxious Upwelling, which would have had the exact same effect. I guess there wasn't really any good plays there, and discarding Rini was better because you wanted more gas and spells to trigger Rini. And now Hammer Tribal doesn't draw into the Noxious Upwelling, so they're in pretty huge trouble now because there's an active Rini in play. Valdez does snag the Infuse, and they're just going to play it as a 5-3 haster. And that's a huge problem for Pip because they're forced to block it. And now, yeah, Rini dies, and Pip will die soon after that. And Abzan Rini gets the win against Infuse. It looks like we're not gonna get an Infuse mirror in the finals.